The bird you think you know has been hiding something extraordinary. Male northern cardinals sing over 200 distinct song variations, and scientists still cannot explain why a creature this small needs that many. 200. That number isn't a range, it's a documented minimum, and the reason behind it will fundamentally change how you look at every feeder in your backyard. There are more than 45 million cardinals living across North America right now. They are one of the most recognized birds on the continent, and yet almost no one understands what is actually happening when one lands 3 feet away from your window. Stay with this because it changes everything. If the natural world genuinely fascinates you, consider subscribing before this video ends. What follows isn't a list of fun facts. It's a structured look at the hidden cognitive and behavioral life of a bird most people walk past without a second thought. This channel exists to close the gap between what mainstream media says about wildlife and what peer-reviewed science actually shows. Every claim here traces back to real research, from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology to studies published in journals like Animal Behaviour and PLOS ONE. The goal isn't to make nature feel magical, it's to show you it already is. Start with the most obvious thing, the colour. A male northern cardinal's red plumage is not fixed. It's a dynamic biological signal driven almost entirely by diet. The pigment responsible, called carotenoid, cannot be manufactured by the bird's own body. It must be consumed. Cardinals extract carotenoids from the berries, seeds, and insects they eat, then deposit those pigments into each new feather during molt. A bird with access to rich food sources molts into deep saturated crimson. A bird with limited resources produces feathers that are duller, more orange-toned. The color you see on any given male is a real-time nutritional report. Females can read it, and they do. In a stand of birch trees on a January morning in Ohio, the reddest male at the feeder is almost always the one who knew where to find food when the ground was frozen solid. Here is where things become genuinely surprising. Female northern cardinals also sing, and they are better at it than the males in ways researchers are still working to quantify. This subverts everything most people assume about birdsong. The conventional model held that male birds sang and females listened. That model is wrong. A 2016 review published in Nature Communications by behavioral ecologist Katharina Riebel and colleagues examined over 1,000 species and found that female song is ancestral, the original condition, not an exception. In cardinals, females sing from the nest to communicate nutritional needs to their mate. The male adjusts his foraging behavior in response to what she sings. At 3 in the morning, while you were asleep, a female cardinal was issuing precise acoustic instructions from inside a dense shrub 12 feet off the ground, and the male was already repositioning to comply by dawn. What makes this more striking is the complexity. Female cardinals in some populations have been documented using song patterns that appear to encode urgency. Shorter, faster phrases correlating with periods of high chick demand. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology's extensive citizen science audio archive contains thousands of recordings that researchers are still parsing for structure. The pattern is there, the full vocabulary is not yet decoded. Now consider what hunts them. Cardinals face predation from above, below, and at the level of the nest. Sharp-shinned hawks and Cooper's hawks are the primary aerial threats, both specialized for pursuing small birds through dense vegetation. A hawk strike in a thicket leaves almost no evidence. Feathers scatter, then drift. Within 4 hours in moderate wind, the kill site is unreadable. Domestic and feral cats are responsible for an estimated 1.3 to 4 billion bird deaths annually in the United States alone, according to research published in Nature Communications in 2013. Cardinals, as ground-level foragers, are disproportionately exposed. A cat ambush in leaf litter at dusk is nearly silent. No feathers dislodge, no struggle leaves marks. The bird simply does not return to the feeder the next morning, and there is no evidence left to find. The third threat is the one that operates in plain sight and still goes unnoticed. Nest parasitism by the brown-headed cowbird. A female cowbird can locate a cardinal nest within hours of egg laying and deposit a single egg in it, the entire intrusion taking less than 40 seconds. The cardinal, lacking any evolved recognition of cowbird eggs, incubates the foreign egg and raises the cowbird chick at the expense of her own offspring. The nest appears intact, the adult appears active, and the reproductive failure is invisible until it's total. All 3 of these mechanisms, aerial predation, mammalian ambush, and brood parasitism, operate without leaving the kind of evidence a human observer would recognize. This is why cardinal mortality often appears to happen without cause. You were right to notice the absence. The bird vanished cleanly because the systems that remove birds from ecosystems are specifically efficient at leaving no trace. But disappearance is only the surface. The deeper question is what cardinals are doing when they're present and whether what they're doing constitutes something researchers are only now beginning to take seriously. For most of the 20th century, scientists classified birdsong as instinct with a learned veneer, a genetically fixed template refined slightly through exposure. Cardinals fit the model neatly. Young males copied songs from adult males. Females were largely passive recipients. The framework was clean and simple, and it turns out substantially incomplete. Beginning in the early 2000s, research into avian cognition began producing results that didn't fit the instinct model. Studies at institutions including the Max Planck Institute for Ornithology started documenting that some songbirds weren't just copying songs, they were improvising, combining elements, and apparently tracking which song variants produced the strongest responses from specific individuals. The question of whether this constituted anything like flexible cognition remained deeply tested. Here is where the evidence becomes specific and worth sitting with. A 2019 study by researchers at the University of Minnesota tracked individual male cardinals across multiple breeding seasons and documented that males adjusted their song repertoire based on neighbor response. Specifically, they reduced the use of songs that failed to elicit counter-singing and increased use of songs that did. This is not simple imitation. It is feedback contingent vocal behavior. A separate study published in Animal Behaviour examined female cardinal response to playback experiments and found that females responded significantly more strongly to unfamiliar song variants than to familiar ones. This suggests active evaluation, not just triggering of a fixed preference, but assessment of novelty as a signal of genetic diversity or cognitive flexibility. The precise mechanism is not confirmed, but the behavioral response is documented and replicable. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology's Project FeederWatch, running since 1987, has produced longitudinal data showing that individual cardinals return to the same feeding territories across multiple winters, with some documented individuals maintaining site fidelity for up to 6 years. Site fidelity at that scale requires something: spatial memory, landmark encoding, route retention, that the old instinct model could not comfortably accommodate. What the evidence shows, taken together, is that northern cardinals snatry feedback-sensitive vocal behavior, female acoustic communication more complex than previously modeled, and long-term spatial cognition that exceeds simple instinct. What it does not show is anything like conscious deliberation or subjective experience as humans understand it. The restraint matters. These are documentable behaviors. Their inner meaning, if there is one, remains outside the boundary of what current science can reach. It is also worth being clear about what remains genuinely unresolved. Most of the studies on cardinal cognition involve small sample sizes, limited geographic range, or short observation windows. Extrapolating from a 6-year banded individual in suburban Ohio to the species as a whole carries real methodological risk. Anecdotal reports from backyard observers of cardinals appearing to recognize individual humans, of pairs maintaining apparent loyalty across years, are compelling but not controlled. Researchers have not yet designed studies that could confirm or cleanly rule out individual human recognition in cardinals, though analogous work in corvids suggests the question is worth asking. So here is what is actually happening when a cardinal appears at your feeder. The color you see encodes nutritional history. The song you hear may be a tuned response to the specific acoustic environment around your yard. The female, if present, is communicating in ways her mate is physiologically built to receive and act on. The bird at your window is not performing for you. It is engaged in something precise and largely invisible, shaped by millions of years of selection pressure, and increasingly, by something that looks like learned flexibility. And here is the part that returns to the beginning. You thought you knew this bird. It's one of the most recognized species in North America. It lands close, it's brightly colored, it's been on greeting cards and team logos and Christmas ornaments for a century. The familiarity felt like knowledge. But what you were actually looking at, the feedback-sensitive vocal behavior, the female song encoded with information, the 6 spatial memory, the nutritional autobiography written in red, none of that was visible in the bird you thought you knew. The bird that has been at your feeder your entire life has been doing all of this. You just didn't have the frame to see it, now you do. And that is not a small thing. Have you ever seen a cardinal at your window or feeder and felt like it was watching you back, like there was a moment of actual recognition? Tell me in the comments, where were you? What time of year was it? How long did it hold your gaze? And what did you do? I want to know the specific details, not just the feeling. I'll be reading every response.